Hi, my name's Tanya Cashorali. I'm the founder of TCB Analytics. We're a Boston-based data science consultancy. And first, I'd like to just thank the organizers for putting this conference together and for accepting my talk. Today, I'll be talking about no more copy pasting and automating patient inquiry tracking in pharma with Shiny. And you'll understand that title pretty quickly. Just a quick background on myself. I started my career working in biotech. I first started learning R in 2005 at Children's Hospital, analyzing genetic data, then helped build some molecular applications to track lab data, spectrometry data at Dana-Farber. Continued doing more really cool modeling work at GNS Healthcare, where we were trying to understand causal mechanisms of disease, biomarker identification, and all this was done by trying to reverse engineer these biological systems in an effort to understand the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. Left healthcare for a little bit and was doing very similar things, but using data and driving decisions based on data. This was a telecom startup where we were helping understand why people would churn and what causes someone to stay with their mobile phone provider. But I found my way back to healthcare at Biogen in 2015, and about a year after that, launched TCB Analytics. And we have a large focus in bio and pharma, as you can tell. And this is Porkchop. He's our Chief Security Officer. So let me give you a brief background on specialty pharma coordination. So our client is a biotech company that has a rare that treats patients with rare disease. So these are small patient populations, and in an effort to make sure that these patients get their drugs in a timely manner, they have what's called these market access teams. Now, these teams are at the biopharma company, and they interact directly with these specialty pharmacies. So how this works is typically a physician will write a script, it goes to the specialty pharmacy, the biopharma makes sure that they have the drug that they need, and the specialty pharmacy will ship that drug to the patient. Now, all kinds of things can happen between here and here, and that includes any kind of shipment delays, insurance approval holdups. They're tracking patient discontinuations and potentially why, refills, so is a patient late for a refill, and so on. And so this isn't just pharma logistics, right? This is real patient impact. So this is a huge step in making sure that patients are getting their drug at the right time. And this team is vital for making sure that happens. Now, this was currently being done in Excel and a whole bunch of email threads. So the solution was to get them out of these disparate Excel sheets and email threads, and we built this Shiny application. I'm going to give you a quick teaser. It's currently tracking nearly 400 patients. We've replaced 5 daily emails with this tool and reduced the 30-minute case calls to about 10 minutes. And none of this existed about a year ago. It was basically this battlefield of spreadsheets and emails, and it currently is supporting 36 plus users, including the sales team, national sales team, and this market access team. So the problem, I call it manual mayhem. People were working out of their own Excel files. People had different versions. Hopefully it was the latest. Sometimes it wasn't, and they had to copy paste patient issues from Excel into emails for these case update meetings. So these email threads would be massive chains with CCs and histories, and obviously there's room for copy paste error there. It has happened. And the case prep was slow and error prone, of course. So these email threads became the basis for these weekly case status meetings about patient issues and why certain patients are not getting medication. So a quick overview of the before and after. You could see the old workflow here. Again, we had Excel sheets of patient status data, and there was this manual copy pasting into these long email threads that became monstrous in length, and they'd have to essentially keep overwriting these or appending every week for their meetings. So instead, we took this Excel sheet from a live source and read it into Shiny. and created this intuitive interface for tracking patient status. And not only that, but we integrated with something called Smartsheet, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but that's a way to basically create tickets for each patient. So you can create these tickets from the Shiny app, and they sync directly with Smartsheet, which tracks all the patient issues. It streamlines communication between the market access team and these specialty pharmas because they're constantly working together to make sure that patients are getting their medication in a timely manner. So I'll talk quickly through the overview with a visual walkthrough. You can see we have a bunch of filters, and there's these patient identifiers, and I'll talk through some of the basic functionality now. These are the filters when you drop down this little box here. So we have a whole bunch of things like vendor, so which specialty pharma, regions and territories, which are customized. So if you're only allowed to see Baltimore because that's your territory, you'll only see Baltimore. Similarly with regions, a regional manager can only see North Central. We have a day supply remaining filter, different update dates, statuses, but the most important thing really is this tracker view. So we built custom R logic to come up with these three groups: refill cases, new cases, and transfers. And refills are exactly as you guessed it. A patient only has so much days on hand of supply, so they are due for a refill. New patients are a certain number of days old, and then transfers, of course, they've transferred elsewhere or transferred specialty pharmas. We used Reactable in R, and it's my go-to table package now. One really nice feature of it is this little caret. It's called their details, and you can simply press this little caret and view all of the history for a patient very quickly. So it's a nice way to have a succinct view, but then if you want the details of the patient history, you have it right there in that little caret. We did some custom JavaScript in addition to the Reactable table. Reactable is very customizable. We have these custom tooltips that we can shape and color however we like. So some of the fields are long, but it doesn't make sense to have the whole field wrapping or making the rows very high. So we have these nice tooltips. We have these different custom filters built into the columns. So calendar filters are right there on the column itself. We have different numeric filters and so on. And one of the really nice things is you're able to create tickets from a patient record right from this application. So a market access team member could come in here and press this little ticket button next to this patient ID. And it pops up this window, a modal window in Shiny, and it pulls up their history, the specialty pharma they've been working with or that's been supplying their drug. They can create an issue type, so there's different types like a missing shipment record, insurance delays, and there's this convenience text input as well where the market access member creating the ticket can immediately populate a communication field that goes directly to the specialty pharmacy. So they could put a message in here like, hello, missing shipment for this date. And that gets populated in the Smartsheet ticket, which I'll show you in a second. They then create the ticket, and the tickets go right in here to Smartsheet. So we have the different columns are new tickets, in progress tickets. We can see that there's refill inquiries, there's new patient inquiries, and this is essentially their source of truth now for all patient status issues. So rather than an email chain that keeps getting appended and CC'd, they have this one place that everyone can go and not only track patient issues, but communicate with the specialty pharmacy right within each ticket. So here's the volume that we're at to date. You can see there was a big influx right at the beginning with our sort of our early power users and early adopters in January. And then we rolled it out to more users pretty much in the end of April, and you could see an increase in volume there. So far, there's been about 400 tickets created to date with an average of 19 per week, And we also started tracking time to resolution, which has been about 1 week to 12 days. So now it's nice that we have all this data as well on the tickets on what are the different issue types, how long does it take to resolve, are certain issues happening more frequently with certain specialty pharmacies over the others. And so we now have this really nice rich data as well. So here's what the tickets look like within Smartsheet as well. So I mentioned when you create the ticket, it goes to Smartsheet, and here's the details of a ticket. We have the geography, we have certain identifiers. There's a whole lot more if you scroll. We have conversations between the market access team and the specialty pharmacy. So it just streamlines those communications and keeps everything nice and neat in one place. And then we have this patient history. Now, obviously, when you create a ticket from the Shiny app in Smartsheet, that's just a extract at that point in time. So we needed a solution to keep that Smartsheet board up to date with all of the patient histories. So what we did was wrote an R script that pulls all the tickets from Smartsheet and compares it to the latest patient data that we pull from a PIN, which I'll talk about. And we set up that script to then update all the patient histories for every ticket that needs it. And that's where Posit Connect scheduling came in really handy. It's really easy. And so these patient histories are updated every 10 minutes within Smartsheet so that we have a live real-time view into each patient and what's happening with that patient. We also created the ability to close tickets from the Shiny app. So again, it's just a time saver for the market access team rather than, you can view the inquiry here. So if there is an exclamation point, it means there's an open ticket for that patient. Rather than click that and go to Smartsheet to close the ticket, they can press this little X icon and it pops up another modal window with the pertinent values that we need. So communications between the hub and the market team, the last patient status, and you can select this ticket and close it. And it will ask you for confirmation. Are you sure you want to close this ticket? If there are multiple tickets for a patient, it will populate multiple and you can select which one to close. So just another convenience feature to save the team a bunch of time. How it works under the hood, as I mentioned, we're reading data from pins, which I have come to love. They're so convenient. You can essentially store data on Connect as a pin from S3. It can be a data frame. It can be generated by a Connect scheduling job. And those pins are essentially, that Excel sheet is now a pin and it's updated daily. So the Shiny app pulls in the latest Excel of all the patient status every day. We use Reactable for customized tables. This is now my go-to just because it's so nice to work with. I used to use DT, and Reactable has definitely replaced it for me. Smartsheet R was a package created by someone named Cole. It's been a huge time saver. I owe him so many beers for the amount of time savings he did with creating this package. It's on GitHub and it makes interfacing with the Smartsheet API to read, create, and update tickets from R very simple. I'll show code on that in the next slide. Some of the smart logic is we have custom user permissions, and how that works is the user logs in and we have a roster pin, and so it reads in that user email name, maps to their region, and then we simply update the different region and territory dropdowns in the Shiny app, and that user now can only see their region and territory. So it makes user permissions pretty easy. That updating of patient history, as I mentioned, is happening every 10 minutes. That's been a huge time saver for everyone, rather than having stale data sitting in that Smartsheet hub. And then we have the patient classification, so those refills and new cases and transfers. I always have to show some code, so here's how you read in a PIN. It's very simple. You essentially authorize a connection with your account and your RStudio key, and then you can simply pin _read, and you point to that board and your data pin. And so we've been leveraging these a whole bunch, and they're really nice time savers. Creating a ticket with that Smartsheet library, as I mentioned, is really easy. There's this SS Smartsheet add rows call. You provide it the Smartsheet ID, And this data is simply a data frame. So your uh, column names and values. And it's typically just one row at a time, but you can do multiple as well. Similarly, closing a Smartsheet ticket is a matter of updating a status. So we mark basically the status to complete for a particular number of Smartsheet card IDs. And we have this function called SS underscore update rows, which you pass, again, the sheet that you're working with, the different row IDs you'd like to close, and we update those statuses to complete. So the impact, this is the new workflow. This is the go-to now. We, like I said, replaced 5 daily emails. It's one single source of real-time truth. 95% of the case tracking is now in here in Smartsheet, the Shiny app and Smartsheet. And we've got 36, probably closer to 40 users now, and that's increasing frequently. We're tracking approximately 400 patients, 2 drug products, and 3x these calls. They're so much more productive now because everyone can just log into this tool. They can jump to the Smartsheet queries, they can view the queries, and it just makes these calls go a lot faster. So some of the lessons learned here: start simple. It literally started from this sketch. So our client had this idea of what we should build, and I love working from sketches. I think sometimes you don't even need a proper wireframe. We did build something from here, and it had most of the pieces. However, we showed the market access team, and it didn't exactly fulfill the needs, their daily business operations. So this is where we say, build dashboards with people and not just for them. You want to get that internal feedback as early as possible. So we went back to the drawing board, and not even a week or two later, we had a new whole mock-up and wireframe and just started building it out. And they said, yes, this is going to work. And then we just kept going from there and iterating with the team that way. And we had, always find your evangelist, your power user, because that was huge. We had one person that was really helpful in the beginning, and she provided a lot of really valuable feedback that ended up helping the entire market access team. And you don't need to over-engineer. Like I said, we're using pins. We're not querying a database. There is a database in the back end creating those pins, but for this application, we simply needed a Smartsheet API connection and to read in some pins and some custom R logic. In closing, I'm happy to answer questions. I think we have a few minutes for that. We didn't need, again, a big vendor platform or 6-month roadmap. We dove in and built this very quickly, and this is, like I said, now the go-to tool that they're using for all their patient status tracking. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
I'll start by saying another wonderful presentation. And there's been comments in the Q&A from Peter Higgins, who is a physician, talking about how incredibly important this is and the harm that you have prevented from patients who've missed their medicines. So kudos on that. He also had a specific question, which I think you may have just answered, on which medications you're helping with. So I don't know if you'd like to answer that one first.
Yeah, I unfortunately can't disclose the client and the medication. I will say it's rare. We've seen this usually in biopharmers that treat rare disease, so it's small patient populations, and
Sure.
so they do all their specialty pharmacy stuff, not in-house but outside. Um, so yeah, unfortunately, I can't answer that. But
That's
we are looking to obviously do this wherever we can. We have kind of a framework now to set up this solution pretty quickly, and then customize it for whatever drug and whatever your business rules happen to be.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Peter.
I have a question about the human factors side of this. Did you struggle to get people to give up their prize spreadsheets? And did you struggle with management to get permission to build the right tool?
Great questions. No, luckily the client was, um, they're great. They knew they wanted to build this, and it came from the top. The direction kind of came from the top down. So but yes, there was at first when we built, so you saw that sketch. We built
Mhm.
that because it was kind of what we thought they needed. And we ended up talking to the market access team. It wasn't at all going to support their day to day. So there was obviously some pushback there where they're thinking, oh, geez, I'm going to lose uh, my Excel sheets. But the thing is, they still get those sheets. We also created an Excel export. So we always use that as a crutch in our Shiny apps. Like if you want all the Excel and you want to, you know,
Yep.
give yourself a headache, go for it. We try to get them, not dependent on that. And I think we're there. I don't know how much they're using Excel other than to dig into really nitty-gritty details. I think we've removed the need to really rely on the Excel. But yes, you're always going to get a little bit of pushback. It's a major change for a lot of people's day to day.
And have the client have the patients noticed the difference, or has the feedback only been internal?
I don't know yet. The feedback has only been internal so far. But yeah, so far, I mean, internally, they seem to be saving. I think you saw it's like a 3x decrease in meeting times, and they're not, pulling up this. It was literally, threads and replies in an email, and
Yeah.
so it's definitely streamlined a lot. I hope that there's been a downstream impact on the patients. But that would be a great question for you to ask the client for sure.
I just say it because I'm certain it has. And anybody who's tried to deal with this, it's a nightmare when you need something, especially if it's a life-saving drug. So anyway, wonderful presentation. We are out of time. Thank you, and thank you on behalf of the patients out there for building a tool that's wonderful. If you want to stick around for a few minutes and answer questions in the Q&A, you're welcome.
Yep,
But
we'll do.
let everybody else scurry off to the next meeting.
Awesome. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Someone asked briefly about pins. Yeah, it's just a super easy way to, you can basically set up automated jobs in R that maybe query data from a database or pull something from S3. And all I have to do in Shiny on R Connect is pin.read and it pulls that data in. And so it's all up to date and I don't really have to do anything. It just makes my life a lot easier. So the client was great in like setting up those pins for me. Patient data safety. So there's a lot of things we had to be wary of. So for example, we had to make sure permissions work. So you can only see your territory, your region, right? There's definitely some concerns around that. And then there's some certain types of people aren't supposed to see on label or off label for another client that we're doing this for. Another example is alternate funding. So if someone's, paid versus Medicaid, we want to make sure we mask some things like that. There's also things like, if for children, any type of drug for children, they won't typically expose actual age and weight. They do groups, so age groups, weight groups. So they have to be really careful about tracing back to a patient for HIPAA. Great question.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'll throw one more out, even though we're over time. Um, do you have any advice for people who want to learn this set of skills? So to go back to the person asking about pins, any general advice on where to start to do this?
Um, I think with pins, does require an R Connect. I'm actually not sure. I've only used it within R Connect, but um, let's see. I'm pretty sure as long as you have them stored somewhere, and it can be used, I believe, locally as well, but that kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah, you basically want to have a board on Posit Connect, essentially so it's published up on Posit Connect, pins.rstudio.com. Otherwise, Shiny, there's a never-ending way to learn
Right,
Shiny. I like there's Mastering Shiny by Hadley. Um,
right.
yeah, and honestly, once you know what you're doing and you want to ask questions, I've been using. Uh, Someone found that GPT 4.0 Mini was really good at R coding.
Cool.
So there's a lot of things. So with little details like Reactable, where I'm not great on the JavaScript, it's awesome for stuff like that. I can format things and it makes it really easy.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I need to hop to the next session as well.
Yes,
Again, beautiful presentation. Thank you.
thank you. I hope to do it, keep doing this with more farmers that need it. So appreciate it. Thanks, Ray.
Wonderful.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.